So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to use Scrivener to format your book manuscript for an audiobook, whether you're going to narrate it yourself or you're going to hire a narrator like I've done. This video is going to show you how to do it really fast, really easily, and you'll see that it really takes no time at all. In case you're new here, my name is Avery Breyer. I'm an author of several books that are for sale on Amazon. I've been earning a living online now for several years, and I thought that perhaps I could be of use to you guys by sharing with you some of the tools I use to run my business and make it easier to run my business. If that sounds good to you and you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when new videos come out. So back to the topic at hand. I've been using Scrivener for pretty much every aspect of writing my books these days. I use it for my Kindle books, my paperbacks, and also now audiobooks. And I'm going to show you how fast and easy it is to get the job done using Scrivener. Now, if you don't use Scrivener, don't worry, because this video is still going to be useful to you, because the processes I go through to prepare my manuscript for audiobook narration will apply no matter what program you're using for your manuscript. And by the way, if you know anybody who would also be interested in learning how to prepare their book manuscript for audiobook narration, please hit the share button below this video, assuming you're on YouTube, that is, and share it with them so that they can benefit and learn along with you. All right, so here's what my manuscript looks like in Scrivener. This is basically the same manuscript that I used for my paperback and my Kindle edition. The only difference are that I changed a couple of things. Number one, I went through the entire manuscript and swapped out any reference to words like "you're going to read about this next," or "the next thing you're going to read about," or blah, blah, blah. Anything to do with reading, I substituted words like "listen" or "listening," whatever made sense given the context of the phrase. I also swapped out any reference to the word book and changed that to audiobook, because I figured that made more sense given that they're listening to an audiobook. And other odds and ends that I did was I went through, and for things where I had a URL, I tried to make sure they were really easy to understand and could not be misunderstood or misspelled when someone's listening to them. So for example, with this book, I offer people a free special report and a free copy of a budget tracking spreadsheet. And so I want to tell people to go to averybreyer.com/money tracker. The original link I had to that was long and convoluted and totally crazy. So in an audiobook, it would not make sense. So I used the WordPress plugin Pretty Links to forward an easy to pronounce URL to the actual URL that these bonuses are located at. So this way it's easy for my narrator to say averybreyer.com/money tracker. It's not likely to be misunderstood. So, look for things like that in your book that you need to change. I also had several instances in the book where I mentioned links to resources and stuff like that. So if you have anything like that in your book, go through your book and either change it so your narrator can read the URL out loud, or just, reword it. So for example, in this particular chapter, I reworded this slightly. In the Kindle book, what I had was, I just said adopt a growth mindset, and then I had this quote, and after the quote, I just put Carol Dweck, Stanford University, and that was actually a live link in the Kindle book. In the paperback book, the way that looked was Carol Dweck, Stanford University, plugged in here at the end, and then one of those little whatchamacallit things you use for like endnotes where you have the little number in, superscript. So, and then they could go and say if it said 1, like Carol Dweck, Stanford University, and then a little superscript number 1, then they could go to the end of the book at the endnotes and see a link to the source of this quote. So in an audiobook, obviously, neither of those options works. I can't do a live link in an audiobook, especially this one, because it's kind of messy. Like, see this? This is the link that I'm linking to. So my narrator is not going to be, reading that out loud, because for the listeners, that would not make sense. So instead, I just kind of summarized that Carol Dweck of Stanford University says blah, blah, blah. So that way I'm crediting her for the quote. And then what I did for stuff like this, at the end of the book, I have, oh, you're not going to see this. Hold on. At the end of the book, the script basically says, finally, for a list of links to studies and resources mentioned in this audiobook, please go to averybrier.com/paycheck-audiobook. Now, paycheck is a word that's spelled differently in the States versus Canada and the UK. So I also put a little note in there for my audiobook narrator to read. And for my Canadian and British listeners, that's paycheck spelled the American way, Paycheck. So just look for things like that where there's room for misinterpretations or misunderstanding, depending on where your listeners are, and clarify it. So then on my website, I'm in the midst of creating a page, which is going to go here, where I'm going to have all of those links so that when audiobook listeners enter this URL, they're going to be able to see all the resources, easy peasy. So they'll still be able to get the most out of the book, just like my Kindle and paperback readers can. So this is blank right now, but it's not going to be blank forever. So, okay, so back to Scrivener. So those are the minor changes that I made to the manuscript. What else can I tell you? Okay, so the way I organized it, per ACX, you have to have opening and closing credits. They tell you what the minimum requirements are for opening credits. Title, subtitle, if applicable, written by, narrated by. So in your Scrivener manuscript, the easiest way to do this is whatever would have been your title page for the paperback or Kindle, you're going to change into your opening credits. So for me, this is what I put there. I'm not going to read it to you, but you get the gist of it here. Then the next thing you're going to have to do is you need to make sure that you have closing credits. The minimum requirements for closing credits are the end. So in my case, that's all I did, to be perfectly honest with you. Just like that, 2 words. So there's nothing much to it. Another thing you need to know about is this. When your narrator is going to read your book out loud, every single file has to mention the section header. So in this case, because these are books we're talking about, it's going to be your chapter title. So what I did then is, for opening credits, I just kept it simple. I guess she'll just read opening credits and we'll call it a day. This used to be in my Kindle book, read this first. So it's going to say, listen to this first. My introduction is going to be just called introduction. So that'll be super easy. Closing credits, for example, she'll just read closing credits, the end. You know, it should be pretty straightforward there. So make sure you keep that in mind when you're naming your chapters or sections of your Scrivener document. You got to make sure it makes sense when read aloud by your narrator. Next, this is how I set up my document in Scrivener. All right, so my folder names do not need to actually be included in the compile the way I formatted this, because I'm going to compile this as a PDF document for my narrator. So this is kind of irrelevant because it's not going anywhere. But for what it's worth, all of my folders that I have here, I put as a section type chapter, and default subdocument type, I put chapter. There's 1,000,001 different ways you can format things and compile things in Scrivener to get the same outcome. This is just the way I do it. If you find a way you like better, by all means do it. But if you do copy this way, it should work for you. This is Scrivener 3, by the way. So yeah, this is just how I do it. Every single little document there, like you can have a text file, right? So these are text files. And every single one I've got checked off, include and compile, section type, chapter. Simple as that. So if you go ahead and watch here as I scroll through the list of documents in the binder over here, you will see what all of mine look like. Okay, so that's how I did that. Next, I go to File and then Compile. Compile for PDF. So then I'm going to go ahead and click Compile. I just select this because I want a page break for each of these. I click Compile. I tell it what I want it to save it as. And you can see my attempt at recording. I tried this and it was a disaster. I sounded like a robot. It was just terrible. So hence the reason why I am hiring a narrator this time around. So now you might want to know what it looks like. So this is what the PDF looks like that I'm going to be providing to my narrator. This is the opening credits. This is the first audio file after that. Introduction, she's going to read that and so on. So every new chapter has a brand new page. It starts on a new page, so it's easy for my narrator to see the difference as she goes and she'll know that each chapter requires its own audio file. One other thing I'm going to mention that I did here, I set up all my links to have footnotes, and I don't actually need those footnotes compiled for the narrator. The reason I set it up this way though in my audio file is so it would be super easy for me to create that web page I showed you, which is here, where I'm going to have a link list for my audiobook listeners to go and check out any of the resources mentioned in the book. So I made one PDF for my narrator where the endnote section is not included in the compile. Then I made another PDF where I ticked this box, and that one looks like this. So I've got this list of footnotes here, which I'm basically going to copy and paste onto my website. I'm going to organize it a little bit better to say which one goes with which chapter, just so it'll be easier for listeners, but this will save me a bit of time because at least I have the link list ready to roll. So thanks for watching. I hope you got a lot out of this video. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up button below the video and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you will know when new videos come out in future.